Gen Con is just around the corner, and if you're going to Gen Con, well, I'm going to tell you the top 10 things that you should look for of stuff that is releasing at Gen Con. And this is specific. This is specific to games that are releasing at Gen Con, because if you look on the internet, and I have this thing right here, you'll see a lot of games that have released before Gen Con, have arrived before Gen Con, have just demos at Gen Con. And if you're doing your research through Board Game Geek, which I should move myself over here for the scrolling of this list, you will see a number of these things which are already out. And so I didn't do that. I tried to focus on titles that are, at least to the best of my knowledge, releasing at Gen Con. So if you want to go and part of your Gen Con experience is to get the stuff before anybody else can, well, then you can focus on these games, which I think, to the best of my knowledge, will probably be pretty good. This was a list that I was going to do on the R&R show over on Rahdo's channel, but then I got COVID and I was too sick. And so I thought, well, haha, now I could do a great list for my own channel. And I am excited to put this on Room and Board because there are a couple games that I've been talking about a lot on other channels, but I don't know if I've talked about them enough on Room and Board. And so I'm excited to put my own definitive Room and Board Gen Con list forward, which would have been different than the one I would have proposed on the R&R because we draft the games, and I know some games are going to be on other people's lists, and so I didn't need to put them on, etc. I think Rahdo probably did a follow-up to that list and would have referenced what was going to be my top 3 on the R&R show, but it's not for this one because I can do the crossover because I want to make this one definitive. So I'm excited. I'm excited about sharing these games with you all. Now, if you don't know what Gen Con is, well, it's a place I've never been to, but I know people who have gone. It's one of the largest board gaming conventions in North America, pretty much in the world, I would say. There's so many people. Last year saw the release. Ooh, what's this? This is the digital merch lookbook. Oh, look at that. Ooh, look at all the merch you can get, all the fun toys. Oh, I played that. I played Compile. It was pretty fun. That's a good price for it, I think. Life in Reterra, I've played that. That was pretty fun. That's a good price for it, I think. Look at that. You're already earning your sponsored product highlight. Last year was sort of overthrown with Lorcana announcements, or Lorcana, if you're nasty. And there were so many people going there. I describe Gen Con not as a board game playing convention, even though you can play a bunch of board games there. There's a big hall where you can just sit down and play games. I think of it more as a demo convention. Anyone who is anyone in the publishing business will have a booth at Gen Con and will be trying to sell you games. You will have hundreds of publishers in this big open area, and you can go up and you can try out their games. You can see if the games are right for you. And I think that's what I like most about the non-game playing conventions. I consider them merchandise conventions, and I consider them sort of demo conventions. You can do little demos, you can see what you can see, and you can pay probably more than you'll pay at retail to get something first, or to get it directly from the publisher, which, in a sense, also supports the publisher more than buying it at retail because you're buying it direct from them. They have paid for the booth. They have to earn their booth costs back, and they will do that through selling merchandise. I won't be at this year's Gen Con, mainly because I'm an actor and I generally have summer theater contracts, and so that takes out a lot of the summer conventions for me. But I know a few people who have been, and they said it was definitely an experience. I think it's probably too many people and too much sensory overload for my own sensibilities, but I think it's also one of those things where if you're into board gaming, it's kind of one of those trips that you want to take once, right? You want to hit up Gen Con, you maybe want to visit Essen at one point in time. They've had these names around them. Even though every convention is essentially the same, you see the same publishers, you go to the booth, you get a demo, and you convince yourself to purchase games. It's kind of an experience to be in a room surrounded by a whole bunch of other nerds. Kind of like the World Series of Board Gaming. I do some work for the World Series of Board Gaming. I'm their director of production, and I figured I should plug them as well because honestly, I think you would get a cheaper hotel room and maybe win them some money or some door prizes or walk away with swag bags and just be able to focus on playing games, which is my personal favorite conventions. I love playing games. I love taking the time and not having to run around and like demo, but just spend time with the games that I already have in my collection. But if you want to add some games to your collection, well, I'm excited to talk about this list. Finally, let's get into it. And so you can sort through this Gen Con preview. I'll drop both of these links down below. There's a little Gen Con preview link on BGG, which has 624 titles. Publishers or other people have added them up. Number one, I'm just sorting them by the number of thumbs, people who are interested in them right now. Number one being Devere, which makes sense. Rock Hard 1977, which, you know what? Let's make that my another honorable mention that I'm going to talk about. Artie loves purchasing stuff as well. He wanted to get in on the action too. You can see he's going. He wants to rock hard, don't you, Artie? But I've also sorted. You can add filters on this, so I've also sorted by the for sale filter. So I'll add two links, both those links into the description down below. So I have 12 games here, and some of them are cheats, but I guarantee 10 of them are probably premiering at Gen Con right now. And number 12, I'm going to put as Rock Hard 1977. This is going to be by Devere Games. Devere Games is one of my favorite publishers, and I certainly never thought I would be saying those words with my first instance with Devere Games, which was their little small box series, specifically the game Ouch. I hated it beyond belief because it was for children, and I think all children would hate it as well. It was not interesting whatsoever. And then I played Red Cathedral from Devere, and I said, oh man, when you get into heavier games, like that put Devere on the map for me. And then they've just dropped hit after hit, like Lacrimosa, Batoku, like by all accounts, anything that Devere has been touching within the last couple of years has been great. They are a brand at which you cannot go wrong. And so obviously that high expectation I am applying to this one, Rock Hard 1977, which you are playing a band, essentially. You're like a touring band. You're an up-and-coming musician, playing gigs, writing songs, promoting your band. And it's also designed by Jackie Fox, member of the 1970s rock band The Runaways, four-time Jeopardy champion, and designer of the narrative adventure trilogy, The Adventures of the Chubby Slugs. I have no connection to Jackie Fox, but I do have a connection to Devere, and that is what makes me very interested in checking this game out and playing it down the line. I'm interested in playing any Devere game. Seriously, not to plug WSBG again, but at WSBG, we're going to be having Red Cathedral and White Castle tournaments, and they're just sort of side events. Devere's just come in and is running them. But the prize of that is like, well, it's like a trip to Essen. And you also get like $300 or $400 or something like that in gift certificates to the Devere website. And honestly, I would be more excited about that prize because I know their gameography, so to speak, is so good. However, it's only number 12. This was Ruel's like number 1 most anticipated, I think. But it's only number 12 because Rado played it and he clearly hated it. Like, he hated it. He was trying to be nice about it, but he hated it. However, mine and Rado's tastes generally differ pretty significantly, and so maybe that means I'll like it a lot. So I'm still holding out hope for this, but his very, very evident lack of enthusiasm for this has kind of dampened it, but still, it's Devere, so I'm interested. Let's go to number 11. You know what? I just cut one. I cut one, so it's only going to be 11 because I was like, nah, I don't have enough to say about the Invincible board game, so I'm not going to. But here's one that I know is a cheat. It's already dropped, but it does look really fun, and that's because it's about Shakespeare. And yes, I'm being hooked in by the theme, okay? I get it. I'm also probably just high off of my one play of Unmatched that was fun, and I'm like, yes, the entire system is amazing now. And I know that's not the case, but this is a 4-pack of Unmatched where you can play as Shakespeare, Hamlet, Titania, who's Queen of the Fairies, and the Weird Sisters, or the Wayward Sisters, but they're the Weird Sisters. They're the 3 witches in Macbeth. Obviously, as an actor, I'm interested in this. I think the variance of characters, how you have like an overseer, how you have the 3 witches who are potentially working in tandem, how you have a fairy in there with magical powers, and how you can have Hamlet, who just is a friggin' wiener who probably just oscillates between killing himself and not killing himself the entire time. Until somebody ends up killing him. Hamlet's a wiener. Hamlet's a winner. But even still, this set is the most appealing, and I feel like one of my favorite things about Unmatched, or about the idea of Unmatched, is that they don't just go in for the IPs. I know they've done a few IPs in the past, but they have such a wide breadth of characters, and I always love when they take existing characters like Tesla, right? Like existing figures, and do a little unique, fun spin on them. So that's kind of my little shout out for Unmatched. Coming in at number 10. Number 9 is a game called Windmill Valley, which really is on my list because of the amount of lists that it has been on for other people. That's number one. Valley, I think, is going to be the hit of Gen Con. I think if you are there, it will sell out. At least in my circles, I've heard it being talked of as the next most amazing thing. And it's nice that it only has a 2.88 weight rating on it right now. Of course, the votes are fairly lower, but 10 people rating it medium is a nice thing. And the other aspect of this that I'm very interested in is because it has the same gear mechanism as Solkin, where you're going to be shifting these gears around and different things can happen as you move them all around. And so rondelles always seem to break my brain, but I love the gimmick of that rotating wheel, which will help you get resources and then building up your economy. I don't know much about the gameplay, to be honest, but by all accounts, the hype for this one is real for me. And I think it's only gotten great reviews so far. So yeah, I think this is one that really should be watched out for. And from what I have seen and from what I know about the general board game lover who loves little crunchy combo Euros, I think this is going to be one of those things that will hit very well with a lot of people. So that's number 9. Number 8 is Terminus by Inside Up Games. Terminus, I remember when it was back on Kickstarter. Inside Up Games, you probably know them for creating Earth. This was their very first Kickstarter after Earth, I think. And so people were expecting great things. And this is all about developing a subway line. There's a shifting resource market where you are trying to buy up resources, and those things are going to cost a different and varying amount. I think the production quality here looks nice. I like this idea of route building, and it feels like it will be a fairly competitive, tight map if you like those things. I think Inside Up is another really great up-and-coming company. Earth did a lot for them to put them on the map. Trey Parker putting Summit as his #1 game, Trey Parker of South Park, and that's also an Inside Up Games game that also helped them a lot. But Terminus seems neat. It does seem really neat, and it is one of those things that I think I would be very interested in trying. I like resource management, and I really like this idea of resources becoming more scarce, and that limited economy of resources kind of gives me that Power Grid-esque feel. And so when I saw it on there, and I think it is releasing around this time, Kickstarter is finally fulfilling, definitely interested in that one. And if you can demo it, if you're there, go demo it and tell me how it is. Tell me if it's any good. Next up, we have Undergrove, which is the latest game by Elizabeth Hargrave and co-designed by Mark Wooten, where you are, oh, what a horrible photo, upside down photo. There we go. Are these all the photos we have? No, this is a better photo of a board. Essentially, you are building a grove of mushrooms where you want to control these choke points in the center, these little, where your mushrooms intersect. You want to lay claim to those things and grow and flourish and build the mushroom economy and build the mushroom environment. That's kind of the crux of the game, but you also have these 4 different actions. And if I recall correctly from the rule book, reading it back when it was on Kickstarter, on your turn, you can do one of these actions, you have the token, you have to kind of move it off, or you have to refresh your actions. But other mushrooms and other combos will allow you to take the same action over and over again. And so the game here is about navigating this board while using your actions effectively and seeing what actions you can kind of double down on instead of needing to take that turn and take that time to refresh. And I really do like the concept of that. That always makes me interested in a game, the idea that give and take of, okay, I'm going to do this action now, and I am going to refresh it. Oftentimes, I find they don't work as effectively as I want them to, but I have high hopes that Undergrove will capture that flow correctly. And I think this is going to be another really solid hit by Elizabeth Hargrave when it drops. I think this feels like the Wingspan follow-up. I don't think Fox Experiment got as much acclaim as, Wingspan, obviously, and Mariposa's isn't talked about as much. And I really kind of think that Undergrove has the best chance of people going, oh yeah, Wingspan and Undergrove. That's what Elizabeth Hargrave made. I do think it's going to be pretty quality. Number 6 is a game that's sort of been hyped for a while by the Dice Tower crew and by Arcane Wonders. I remember talking to the owner or CEO of Arcane Wonders, whatever the title is, about this game and how he had been like so desperate to get the licensing for this game, and that getting this game was like a huge win because everybody wanted it. And Dice Tower has talked about this for a while, but you could only get it in Brazil. And so now it is going to be widely available through Arcane Wonders, which is huge. Oh man, do I have 2 Arcane Wonders on this list? Yeah, the next one's going to be Arcane Wonders as well. Good job, Arcane Wonders. Arcane Wonders is a really solid company. But basically, you are collecting comic books. That's it. So it's a superhero game without being a superhero game, but you're collecting comic books of the specific superheroes. And so that's why the licensing has to be there, because you're collecting all this sorts of Marvel superheroes. It's a Marvel game without you needing to be the Marvel characters as you go through and you collect all the cards that you can. It's essentially just a tableau building and a set collection game. There's going to be a number of different categories on each edition. Is it a first printing edition? What's the rarity of this edition? Are you getting things in sequence, right? And you're going to get points for having the perfect collection, and the person with the best collection wins. I think the theme is fun. Theme does a great deal, I think, for me. It's doing more and more for me as I get more entrenched in the hobby. Before, I used to only be like, mechanics is the only thing, but having great mechanics tied with a theme is huge. I won't play a game I won't keep a game if the mechanics aren't sound. I think people were talking about this in reference to DC United. Somebody in the comments just said, oh, no, people want DC United because they just want a bunch of DC stuff. And I think that's 100% right. But for me, like, the gameplay experience has to be equal to the fandom, or even more so, for me to get involved in it, or else I would just engage with the fandom. Like, if Comic Hunters isn't a good game, I would just go get a comic book myself, right? Or watch a Marvel movie. But I think it looks like a fun little set collection, and you throw a little superhero theme on there. You get to be the nerds collecting things. I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people. Moving along to number 5 is the way this should have been from the start, which is why I'm excited about it. This is Foundations of Metropolis, which is just the cardboard copy of Foundations of Rome. Foundations of Rome does not need to be as deluxified as it is. It's a solid, reasonably good area control game where you are competing for spaces on the main board. If it would show me any pictures of them, well, maybe I'll have to go to Foundations of Rome for the photos. So I'm going to go to Foundations of Rome, but just picture everything in cardboard. Right, you have this large board with all these numbers on them, H1, H2, etc. Those lots are going to come up for auction, essentially. On your turn, you can purchase a lot. You can play a building down in a lot that you own, or with multiple lots that you own next to each other. Or you can just earn income to allow you to do those things over and over again. I have always said that it's overproduced. I've played it. I think it is fine. I think it is a 7.5 game. You know what I mean? I think it's completely fine, but I love that it is now in an affordable package for people to play it without spending $200. I've never thought it was a $200 game. I thought it was a $40 to $50 game. And I am so thrilled that it is now this, and hopefully it will have a wider distribution, etc. Of course, it has a Metropolis theme, which, I don't know, people might like, and they still have nice boards. They still have nice player trays to keep everything in order, to make setup very easy, which I think was huge and was the correct decision. And so really stoked for Foundations of Metropolis to hit retail in the way that I know it should. Number 4 is Rolling Realms Redux. I didn't know that this was coming out, but it looks like it's coming out at Gen Con. And this is just more Rolling Realms. The premise of Rolling Realms is you're going to get 3 different games. So here we have Flamecraft, Dog Park, and Tidal Blades. Ooh. Jimmy Stegmaier has clearly taken games that aren't Stonemaier games for these ones and made little mini games of them. You're going to roll 2 dice. You can see on the first round they rolled a 1 and a 5, and you can use one of the numbers on one of these things and one of the numbers on the other of these things. You want to combo in between these things. You'll get coins and pumpkins and hearts, as you do this, and you can see that the more of these things you get, the more you can manipulate to get yourself more numbers so that you have extra turns. It's a comboing game, and the fun part about this game is that you just shuffle up the realms and you draw 3, and you have to figure out how they interact with each other. I think it's a really nice roll and write, and I really like that there is this 12 new realms in a new system for each one. This could be a standalone expansion. I think it's a very fun system, and I like that they're printing more. So that's why it hits number 4. Number 3 is a game called Charcuterie, because I was talked into getting this game, and I have a copy that I purchased through a group buy that will eventually make its way to my house, because somebody I think might be picking it up at Gen Con, or doing a local pickup so we could save on shipping, which is great. And I think this game is going to be just fine, but I think the theme, again, is something that sets it apart. You're going to be creating a charcuterie board. You're going to be drafting these crackers and meats and cheeses and olives and tapenades and whatever else, and then you are going to be putting it onto your own charcuterie board, and there will be various scoring conditions. That's it. That's all there is. You draw out some stuff, you draft and say, okay, I want this thing, and then you arrange a little charcuterie board. That's it. The why I got suckered into backing on a group buy is because I thought it was a really reasonable value on Kickstarter. I thought it was a theme that's kind of gimmicky and fun, but could get people into board gaming, and is something that my girlfriend Renee would enjoy. And yeah, this just like a lightweight game that is unique, simple, doesn't overcomplicate itself, and I think it's going to be just a really great gateway game. I think it'll hook people in. I think people will be like, wow, this is a game, like this is fun. And you can slowly introduce them to drafting, and you can slowly introduce them to set collection, right? And having a tool that can do that feels pretty exciting to me. So yeah, be on the lookout for Charcuterie. I think it looks cool, and I own it. I haven't yet played it because I don't have my copy, but you know, it was good enough for me to purchase, and that should say a lot because I'm very cheap. So I think it should be a decent price as well to get it. Number 2 is a game that I feel like I've talked about a lot. Yeah, I did talk about it a bunch because I would reference it a lot when I was covering How to Save a World, which is Burnt Island's next game, made by my neighbor and not my friend. But Endeavor Deep Sea, before that, was my favorite Burnt Island game, hands down. I think this game is so good. Like, I had so much fun playing this game, and I think everybody should try it out. It's really great. If you like tracks, I love tracks. I love me some different tracks that give me sweet abilities as you go through, and maybe one of these times in my rambling, I'll get to images and tracks of this. This is perfect. Well, it's not quite perfect, but it'll do. This is your personal player board. You're going to be going up on these 4 tracks as you go through the game. The goal is to get the most points through your deep sea explorations. See, the blue track is how many spaces you can move and how deep you can dive. You can now dive to level 3. The green is how many actions you can get. Sorry, the yellow is how many actions you can get. The green is how many new workers you get every turn. And then the orange is how special your specialists you can hire, because there's a big tray of specialists down here that every turn you get one of these specialists and they do something different. But every turn you also want to get a certain number of discs to put out on your specialist, uses actions, or to put out into the deep sea as you're doing explorations and going down deeper and deeper to get you even more points, to get you even more bumps on your tracks. There's so many combos here. There's this other sideboard thing that is fun that you don't really engage with that much, but it's still pretty fun. Of bonuses, everything seems to give you a bonus. Also, the thing that I really like about this game is this exploration aspect. You start with only one spot up on land, and then you can go right or left and find new tiles, and so the modular board is always something that really gets me excited about a game as well. I should move myself back. There we go. See, now I'm looking at it. Yeah, it's really good. And Burnt Island does fantastic production value. And generally at a convention, you can get their deluxe games versus what you might find in or at retail. I think both are good. I think friggin' Game Nerds had this on pre-order for like $40. the other day. People are posting about it in the Discord, and for that price, every single person should go to Gamers and see if that is still on. Or get the deluxe version. Like, I feel like both, and I never say this, but I feel like Burnt Island is one of those companies where they do a lot of Kickstarter stuff, and their retail versions and their deluxe versions are both worth it. And I always am the type of person, if you're new to this channel, I'm the type of person who's very cheap and who always says, just get the retail edition. And I feel like Burnt Island adds so much value with their deluxifications and such great quality with their deluxifications that it's an absolute reasonable thing to get if you like that stuff. And if you don't, their retail editions are so well made as well that it's completely a great purchase as well. And I can't think of another company where I have said that. Usually I'm like, just get the retail version. You don't need the deluxifications. But the fact that Burnt Island can kind of earn that price point for me, it says a huge, huge thing about their production quality. And it is what has made me a big fan. And made me happy when my neighbor, not friend, told me that his game was signed with them. Because, yeah, it's they're really, really good. Endeavor Deep Sea is number 2, absolutely. It's really fighting for that top spot. But I gotta give the top spot to Gnome Hollow. Gnome Hollow is a friggin' banger. It's so good. And this will replace Carcassonne for you. It's like a better worker placement Carcassonne style game. It's a beautiful game where you are a gnome who is creating these little fairy rings to collect mushrooms. But you only get to collect the mushrooms on the fairy ring if your gnome is on the fairy ring. And so you're kind of committing to like, hey, I'm building this road, similar to Carcassonne. But you can also take that gnome off the fairy ring and go to the market and sell your mushrooms. If you do, somebody else might move into that fairy ring before you complete it or before you can get back to it. And so there's a surprising amount of competitiveness that can happen here, because I played it with, again, my neighbor and not friend, Yuval, and we tried to make this as competitive as we possibly could, and it really succeeded. There's also these bonuses that you get to unlock as you go through by completing a ring of 3, of 4, of 5, of 6, of 7. And so it incentivizes you to complete these different sized rings to capitalize on whatever bonuses you want to get, which can give you additional mushrooms, it can give you additional selling power, including that the market that you go to is limited. Like, only one person can sell 3 blue mushrooms at a time. And so if they sell that, they get the points for it, and nobody else can sell that again. And so there's sort of a race as you sell these mushrooms and collect these mushrooms. Okay, well, I'm seeing that this person's already, oh, this is a good image of it. I can zoom in here. This person is, oh, lovely little board to set up the tiles for the market. That's nice. You can see, okay, this person has sold 3 mushrooms of the red type. They've gotten 2 points, right? And so there's the race, because only one person can sell 7 of the blue mushrooms to get those 12 points. Only one person can sell 6 of the purple mushrooms to get those 15 points. And so you're racing and competing against each other to lock that down, and that makes the drafting of the tiles like very competitive. This is a little set collection area. As you go through, you're trying to collect 1 of each, and if you do, you get incremental, these points up here, the 25 points for collecting 1 of each of these things. There's a lot of ways to interact and to get points. It's beautiful, it's simple to learn, and I think it is a thing that both heavy gamers and lighter gamers can engage with and enjoy. While I think Windmill Hollow is going to be like the gamer's hit of Gen Con, I think this should be the hit of Gen Con, and I think this should sell out every day. And if you are going to Gen Con, this is my #1 recommendation for the thing that you should pick up. It really is. I've played it. I played the prototype back in 2023, winter 2023, and the board is not dual layered, but it's magnetized, which is the most fun gimmick that I've sort of interacted with. Ivy Studios did it, and they charge you $130. And now Gnome Hollow can do it, and I don't know what they're charging, but I know it's less than that. I think it's probably in the $40, $50 range. That would be my guess. Yeah, it's a very exciting game for me in a lot of ways, because it also is being published by the Op, who are normally only known for publishing different versions of Monopoly. That's not true. They've published illustrations, the Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. They've published a bunch of stuff, but they are really branching out and getting more into the hobby space. And I think it's like they do some distribution for Dice Throne too. I got my copy, my review copy of the Marvel Dice Throne from the op. They're really branching out that hobby feel and growing their catalog. And I think they're doing a really good job of it. So they're kind of on my publishers to watch, which makes me excited to see where they go from here. So that's it. Those are the top 10, top 11 for Gen Con. That's what I'm excited about. That's what I would recommend going to check out. But drop down below what you are excited about as well for anybody who is going to Gen Con. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. I hope it is one of your favorite vacations ever. And when it isn't and you want something more low-key, well, then you can go to WSBG next year. I'm just jealous. I'm just jealous that I can't be there with you, but I know I'm going to be at the World Series. So yeah, let me know what you're backing, what you get. If you go to Gen Con, come back to this video and like drop down what you picked up, maybe. Or just like, you can let me know in another video. I'll see you there. I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but I will have a review of Gnome Hollow coming on this channel at some point, because I reached out to them and I said, hey, I've played Gnome Hollow and I really love it. Do you want a very favorable review? Send me a copy, please. And they said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I said, if you don't send me a copy, I'll probably just go buy it, but I don't want to wait, because I like it that much. And they said, okay. So there's going to be a review of Gnome Hollow coming out. I'm very excited about that game. And Endeavor Deep Sea would be is fantastic as well. Thanks again for being here. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you if you are attending Gen Con. And if you're not, well, people who are attending Gen Con, don't listen to this next sentence. It's too many people. It's too many people. It's too crowded. Just go to your local convention and just play the games that you have. You'll be fine. But for those of you who are going to Gen Con, now you can uncover your ears. I hope you have a great time. I'll see y'all later.